It was an offseason that we will all remember. And in the final season of the Pac-12 as we know it, comes season 3 of The It Factory. It will be full of players that are on preseason watch lists, will be on future NFL draft lists. As always, we will take the helmet off of the top players on the West Coast and tap into who they are and why they stand out. I'm Yogi Roth, and welcome back to The It Factory. It's the road show. That's right, The It Factory. We go on the road. You probably have seen this book everywhere now because since it has just been released, The First Rule of Mastery, Stop Worrying About What Other People Think of You, by Dr. Michael Gervais. I'm Yogi Roth. This is The It Factory. As I always say, because I stole it from Mike, welcome back or welcome to The It Factory. And I'm your host, Yogi Roth. And we are in your space once again. Mike, I've had this show for 8 years. You've been on at least once a year, so the tradition continues. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Listen, these are like treats to have these conversations with you. And so thank you for including me again.
Yeah. Well, thank you for writing this book.
Oh, yeah.
Birthing a book is that. And we've never birthed anything, so I'm not like trying to compare it to Lisa or Amy, our respective wives, to birthing actual humans. But it's a challenge. I want to hear first, like, why write it? What was the journey like to get this book out that is now all over the country?
Okay, cool question, because I'll do the origin story of it, and then I'll get to why now.
Yeah.
So I was 15, 16 years old, and I just got my driver's license. And I'd saved up a couple summers, to buy a Mazda B2200 truck. Like, it was the best thing I could afford, right? But being honest, it was a beater. And I was driving, and there was a car that was going to pass me in the same direction, going a little bit faster than me. I'm 16 years old, and I remember that they were passing me, and I straightened up, I grabbed the steering wheel, I put on the coolest look I possibly could, and I thought, when they look over here in this car, they're going to see something cool. And they passed by me, and they didn't even look. They did not care what was happening inside my car. And so I had this lightning bolt moment, which is like, what am I doing? Why am I acting and propping up and changing the way that I was comfortable in the way I was driving? Why did I change all that to look good to a person who didn't even know me? 16 years old, I was embarrassed by it. I knew that was weird. I knew that was not grounded. It's not authentic. It was the action of none of the things I wanted to be. And I was so embarrassed by it, I never talked about it. I didn't bring it up, and I just knew it was this weird thing that I was playing this second game. And that second game was to look good rather than just to be me. And I didn't talk about it with folks, and I eventually found my path through sports psychology. And eventually I was fortunate to work with extraordinary performers, best in the world across multiple disciplines. And come to find out, they have something similar too. So I kept this thing private for a long time, and then sitting with them in an intimate setting, having conversations about what it takes for them to be their best. And they would say things like, yeah, I'm just kind of working out some fears. Like, what do you mean? Fear of getting hurt? No, it's not that. Well, what's the fear? Letting people down. What do you mean? Well, no, it's not letting people, it's letting myself down. So quickly they want to cover it up to be the strong person. But this idea of letting people down, of the failure of blowing it publicly, the failure of letting dad down, mom down, agents down. So it was this thing that folks were carrying with them, is not looking shitty in the eyes of other people. So fast forward, I was like, oh, I'm not alone. I've been worrying about how people saw me for too long. They're struggling with it. I wrote an article 24 months ago, no, more like 36 months ago at Harvard Business Review. And they called back 24 months later and they said, who are you? Right? And they said, listen, you are the #1 downloaded article 24 months in a row. Let's get a book done.
Wow.
And I said, great. So I just leaned in with Kevin Lake is my writer here, and we just leaned into the science. We leaned into some really honest stories about my understanding of what it takes to be free from worrying about what other people think of you.
FOPO, right?
Fear of people's opinions, yeah.
And just for context, if you're a first timer joining Mike and I's conversation,
Oh, yeah.
we go way back,
Welcome.
right? We're going
Yeah.
back probably 15 years now. You've been at the Elite 11, been mentoring these quarterbacks around mental skills. You've been, we've done a little bit of everything together. But to just kind of set some framework for today, I want to double click, as you often say in your podcast, right? On your story. I also want to come at this from the lens of an athlete. Because as you're driving at 16, I'm thinking of every quarterback at 16 driving and wondering what somebody not only is looking out their window at, but looking at their phone at and being like, judge, good, bad, and different. I also want to talk about a coach. And a coach's job is to give their opinion, right? And here we are talking about the fear of people's opinions and other people's opinions. So just a little bit of framework for that. So I want to start with something you wrote in the book that is probably not a surprise, but my favorite part of the book, which is you reference being in a ring and you are at an MMA fight, right? Mm-hmm. And you are supporting one of the boxers, one of the fighters, giving them mental skills. And your mentor hits you afterwards and was like, yo, bro, why am I seeing you on TV? Mm-hmm. Our job in sports psychology, mental skills, is to be done in the shadows, to be done behind closed doors. And to me, as you said, hey, I'm 16, I had this moment like, hey, screw that guy. He didn't look at me. My life changed. I don't need to worry about somebody else's opinion. Like, here you were 20 years later, still worried about somebody's opinion. It was somebody that you loved and cherished and taught you a lot.
My mentor, yeah.
Yeah, your mentor. And you come home, and it's my favorite story because your wife is like...
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's give some context. She's Latin. She's got all the fire that you would hope for. And she basically says, you were there to do a job. Do your job. And you were not there to have a moment on TV. You were there in an honest way, trying to figure out how to position, how to be great for the athlete. So we rehearsed everything the night before and where we're going to go. And I'd been, as a sports psychologist, working with this athlete for a long time. So we did all the right imageries and dress rehearsal, dry run, But there's 3 coaches: the head coach, myself, and the boxing coach, or the striking coach. But we didn't rehearse where we were supposed to go. So there was a moment where we had to cut in front of the camera to get to the spot we were supposed to be. And it was this brief moment. And it just it haunted me that my mentor said that to me, like, get away from the lens. Like, what are you doing? And so...
Well, and just to be clear, you don't know where the lens is.
No, I didn't
know
where
the lens is. The fight is going on. And I bring that up because...
This is pre-fight.
Okay,
so we're just getting to our place.
You're getting to your place. But I just say that of you're as skilled as anybody I know at mental skills. And the whole thing, and the whole point of this book, I mean, you nailed it. And here you were, 15, 20 years later, whatever it was, from that moment at 16 driving, being like, oh, I'm not worried about his opinion. Why was I worried about his opinion? To worried about the opinion of somebody you love and somebody who trained you. How have you navigated that, Mike, to take advice from your wife and be like, man, don't worry about somebody else's opinion, even if you love them?
Yeah, so we should clarify that this book is not about not caring about what people think of you. That's left for narcissists, sociopaths, and maybe the enlightened. This is about not worrying. And so the excessive worry about what they might think of me later, I think, is the number one constrictor of potential.
Yeah.
I think this is the thing that keeps us small and prevents us from really going for it. And it creates this nag underneath about, am I okay, am I not okay? What happens if I go for it and I look stupid, or if I let people down, or if I make mistakes, or whatever, fill in the narrative of all the things that could go wrong. The way that I've navigated this is I've had to square up with anxiety. So rewind just a little bit between the 16-year-old and probably the 26-year-old. It was my first year of college. And the reason I got into sports psychology is because I was a good little athlete in Southern California surfing. And I could do the thing when it was heavy. And when no one was looking, I could put myself in a critical part of a consequential wave and be really comfortable in those moments. So I had all the technical and physical skill to do the thing that I love to do. But as soon as it was competition day, I was different. So I had this narrative when there was people watching and critiquing that I had to be perfect. I had to be better than I was on, the 2 days before, which that's not how it works. You just need to do what you know how to do and trust yourself and gate out the noise. And what they think of me is noise. I couldn't do it. And it drove me down this path to understand the science of this. So I had anxiety underneath the surface. And so first year of college, I remember waking up in the morning. I would be brushing my teeth and my hands would be shaking. I thought, that's weird. What is going on? I didn't know what anxiety was. I wasn't like, I didn't have anyone in my family that understood like the invisible world of mind and emotions in a sophisticated way. So my hands are shaking. I haven't even left the house yet. That's just good old general anxiety that was there for me. General anxiety is a worry about later not being good enough, that it's going to be disastrous later. And it just runs and ruminates that it keys us up. And so my mind was running to all the things that could go wrong. My body was responding as if those threats were happening right now. And that's why I had like shaking hands when I was just brushing my teeth. So how did I navigate this? I had to square up with anxiety. I had to square up and be like, what am I doing with the content of my mind? And I'm paying way too much attention to what they might think of me later. And that got me good though.
Yeah.
If I can kind of stand on a little box here for a minute, like that anxiety drove me to be very disciplined in my studies, to be better than anybody else in my industry, and at least in my mind.
Yeah.
And so it drove me to go to unhealthy places. At one point, there wasn't a research article in my science that I hadn't read, annotated, and thought deeply about how to metabolize that and share it with others. Every research article, I was in it. It was unhealthy. I was a bit of a mess. It almost cost me my marriage. I was a bit of a wreck. So I lived what's in this book. Let me ask you a question. Where does this show up in your life? FOPO, fear of people's opinions, or this worry about what they could be thinking about?
So I was going to save it for the end, but I'm part of the Pac-12, right, which is a league that's been around for over 100 years. Yeah. And it's sad, shameful lunacy that the league's going to end. Yeah. And as we know it, the first thing I did was exactly what you would do, which is you just called up your people. Yeah. And I can remember that Friday night like it was yesterday. And here we are, fast forward to like the greatest season in my lifetime in the Pac-12. Been around this league for 20 years now. Mm-hmm. And 200 full-time people and another 300, 500, 600 freelance staffers like myself are all in limbo trying to find our next gig. Like it's not like another league popped up and we can just go work at that league. Right. So everyone, including myself, is in this dialogue of like, what are their opinions? Because I got to get a job. Yeah. Right? And what is the most intimate thing in my life? Of course, it's your family. It's the things closest to you. What matters most, right? Yeah. That's what matters. So you're saying, all right, how do I chase it? How do I chase what matters? And it's hard, I think, to recognize or get a handle on, like, somebody's going to have an opinion of you. And for somebody who's on air, like, it needs to be good. So they get a job. This book has helped.
Yeah, that's really cool, dude, because there are opinions of other people that can fundamentally change the course of your life.
No doubt.
Right? Like that could be a college admissions. That could be a head coach. That there's a GM, a scout. There are opinions that fundamentally matter. What we do with our relationship to their opinion is our responsibility. This is a rite of passage for adulthood. Yeah. Is that they're going to have their opinion. My job is to be true to me. Yeah. And that's not just a phrase that I drop. Like, what does that mean? What are the values and virtues that you're working from? What is your purpose? And when you're met with a moment of stress or pressure, are you true to those values and virtues? Are you able to access your skills and craft, whether it's football or articulating on a microphone or whatever it might be? Yeah. Can you because I couldn't articulate, I couldn't express my craft. It just got all bunched up because I was over-indexed on like looking stupid. Yeah. So this is the rite of adulthood. And I know that we've got young athletes and coaches that are in your community. They're like, well, just what do I do? I'll tell you what you do right now is like, you have to become an adult in this moment. and say, or at the moment that you're ready to be an adult, this is one of those rites of passage to say, I can love other people and not be consumed with worrying about what they think of me. Yeah. So when you're grounded and you're in a really good place and you feel that you can be wherever your feet are, you can be at home with yourself, wherever you are, that means that you've got the requisite psychological skills to navigate a stressful world. Part of the great stressors of modern times, at least in USA sport, let's say, because there's a lot of stuff happening in the world, part of the requisite skills is to know how to focus your attention, how to speak to yourself where you're backing yourself, how to love up challenges as opposed to seeing them to a threat, how to be able to breathe, to downregulate. Those are all basic skills that are part of the off-ramp, if you will, to FOPO. Part of the on-ramp to FOPO is, do I matter outside of my performance?
I want all my colleagues to hear that because that, to me, is this group of a couple hundred people that have been so connected to team. And what is beautiful about team is like the sum of its parts are bigger than just an individual.
Yeah, cool.
I think we all enjoy being a part of something bigger than ourselves. And here we are now seemingly on a bunch of islands, right? You don't work at an office, you're working from home, you're trying to figure out your life. What is my next move? I got a mortgage, whatever it might be for the people that I've grown to love over the last 20 years.
Your teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. And I think that's important for them and me among them to hear that and say, hey, it's okay to feel that. But like when you're on a team, you love the pat on the back. I could think of being an athlete. Hey, nice route, nice catch. Felt great. And then the other way, God, that's why I think quarterbacks are the most up and down position on planet Earth, because every snap they're being affirmed or coached or taught, whatever you want to describe it as. And I'd say that to my colleagues of like, to Mike's point, read the book, but also be confident in the work that they've all done over the course of the last 12 years of the networks and 20 years or more, 108 years in the league. Okay, so let's talk about the next step, because early December, there's a thing that you know, the transfer portal.
Yeah.
It's going to open up. And I believe and will predict that more players than ever before will enter the portal, because you can, if I'm at, name the school, if I'm at USC, if I'm at Oregon, if I'm at Colorado, whatever, I can enter the portal and I could come on back. My coach lets me. Most programs, that my understanding, allows them to come back. But you're going out to test the water, test the market. You're a free agent. Yeah. Literally, you're going out to see other people's opinions of you. You are also looking out to see what's the market. What's Finding Mastery going to give me as an NIL deal? What is Coca-Cola or Gatorade or whatever it may be? So what advice, or how would you take a principle from this book to those athletes that are saying, you know what, I might be starting right now, or I'm getting screwed right now, but I got to test out the market because people are getting paid right now.
I think if I was in that position, I'd test the market too. You know, I would look for my best opportunity. And that doesn't mean that the best opportunity is not right in front of me. And sometimes you send the wrong signal when you go shop. Yeah. You know, so it's what we're talking about is discernment, is being able to make a decision that is thoughtful in context of the information flow. Discernment is one of the 5 best practices of people that have a sense of power in their life. So they don't get whipped around by information that's coming in. They take the information, they have a process to understand what the implications are. So sometimes introverts tend to discern on their own, and they think and they write, and sometimes extroverts will outsource that. Whatever the process is, work to get clarity. What are the pros and what are the cons? What's the upside, downside? How does it feel to make these decisions? And not to be whipped around by your agents or your dad or another coach, but to honor this word of discernment. What are my choices with this information that's coming in? I would probably shop if I was thinking that there was a better opportunity. At the same time, everyone's going through something and there's some context that they're in. That could be a really bad decision in some situations.
Would you tell your kid to shop?
No. And I'll tell you, that's funny that you asked that, because he just went through it right now, in volleyball. And so we stayed on it. We stayed on the team, and but it's a little different. I think it's a little different at this stage. It's 15. Yeah. It's volleyball. But in college, if I go there for a minute, I don't know, contextually, I could build a case both ways.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have tremendous empathy for parents and players. I mean, I talk to parents all the time. Hey, I'm thinking about dipping in the portal. I want to see what it's like. What's so-and-so school's opinion of me? What's your opinion of their quarterback room, for instance? It's just fascinating because it's a dance to get to clarity.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about coaches for a second. Coaches' jobs are to give their opinion.
That's right.
Right? And as they're evaluating your son Grayson in volleyball, or my kids when they're in high school for whatever they play, or this current class of quarterbacks, you name it, they're evaluating. What would you say to coaches that can maybe front load a world where their athletes aren't afraid or have fear of the opinion they're about to bestow on them?
There is a whole science sitting right in behind your question. And so let's start with a 3-to-1 ratio first. Okay.
What's that?
So this would be very tactical. And then we'd want to move up to a 5-to-1 and then an 8-to-1. Okay. So 3-to-1, this is a tactic, and I'm going to go to a principle in a moment that leads this tactic. 3-to-1 ratio. For every one critical thing that you're going to say to your kid, front load it with 3 things that are really good. But you don't say, it's not the sandwich approach like, Yogi, I love your t-shirt, I love your haircut, I love your smile. However, it's not the moment-to-moment feedback loop. This is like you are finding a cadence of 3-to-1 to start with where you are pointing out what great looks like. And here's the best way to do it. That. Yes, that. And I learned that from Alex Cohen, PhD of USOPC. That is a great way to think about giving feedback. That's it, right there. And then when there's something that's like they drop their elbow or something, you're like, ho. Okay, so now you're giving critical feedback. If you can get to 5-to-1, 8-to-1, you're really onto something. But the principle that you're working from is support, then challenge. So you build a relationship, and once that relationship is honest in a way that you're clear from both sides that, no, as a coach, you're clear and have conveyed to them that you're in this relationship for them too. You're in it for you, but you're in it for them too. And if you can convey that to your kid, your athlete that you're working with, it's awesome. So support, then challenge them. 3-to-1 ratio, 5-to-1, 8-to-1. And that would be the beginnings of a high-performance feedback program.
All right, so we're going to do this because we do it every time. It's our final 5. We're going to rip here, okay? Question number 1, best advice you've ever received, maybe it's changed since you wrote this book, is what?
Be here now.
Same answer you've given every single time.
Yeah, right.
Worst advice you've ever received is?
Worst advice, I would say pretty much anything that comes out of somebody's mouth that doesn't really know me. Like it's out of context. And so it's kind of noisy, you know? Yeah, so I don't have a particular one.
I know this book is about not worrying about what other people think of you, but I'm curious, when you took this book home for the first time, what was the response about the people that I know care about you, your wife and your son?
My wife nor my son have read it.
How about that?
Yeah, they're like, that's good.
They just live it every day.
No, it's good. Hope it worked well for you, Mike. You know, so no, they haven't read it.
It's beautiful.
And I love that about them. You know, they're living it. We're living it.
Yeah, no, you really are. All right, number 4. The title of this show, as you know, is The It Factory. Everybody has an it factor. For this book, like, what's the it factor of this book?
Oh, I think it's. I don't think it changes for the book. I think it's. Well, let me try that. Putting in context of the book, the it factor is when you are fully grounded and connected, and you are at home with yourself in such a way. Now, bridge it to the book at such a way that you are not trying to extract from other people a sense of being okay. You're not looking and outsourcing your sense of esteem or worth or confidence, but you're there because you're at home with yourself, that you're there to also help lift others. So you're being a great teammate. So the it factor is like you are so at home with yourself that you're fully present and you're there to help other people be great.
All right, so to all those people that will read this book or have read this book, and you put in this book into the totality of the experiences of your life, how do you answer the following question again? You love this question. It all comes down to?
Oh, I know. It's such a good question. It all comes, so right now, I know what I want to say, which is the present moment, but it all comes down to The present
Sales.
moment. It's the yeah, right. Pre-sales. Yeah, please. Yeah. Help me out. No, it comes down to the present moment. The present moment is the unlock. Yeah. So increasing the amount of time you spend in the present moment, that is the most outsized impact and investment you can ever make in yourself. Figure out how to work with your mind to be here now.
Mike, thanks for letting us be here.
Yeah.
We're at a little roadshow, Finding Mastery Studios, you and your team. And congratulations on this book. Check it out. It is beautiful.
Thank you.
I know you didn't take this challenge lightly. You know, you guys went for it.
Yeah.
It's evident in the pages of this book, man.
Thank you for everything, Yogi. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you, bro. All right, there it is. Dr. Michael Gervais. Get the book, The First Rule of Mastery, wherever you get books. Let's make sure people are supporting this thing and support this show. You know, kick this one out to a coach, high school coach, Pop Warner coach, a parent, a friend. I think this is a really cool dialogue, conversation with one of the all-time humans in my life, and maybe yours. If you've been listening for 8 years, you know this voice right here. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you.